Have you ever fallen prey to Israeli propaganda? People who claim that they want peace and statehood for Palestinians. People like Alan Dershowitz, people like Ben Shapiro, for example. These people claim Israel have always wanted a state for Palestinians, but Palestinians unfortunately just refused. That's the propaganda that they go for. Today I have a clip for you from Diana Buttu. It's taken from an interview that she had with Owen Jones, a famous journalist on the issue. Diana Buttu is a Palestinian-Canadian lawyer. She's a former spokesperson for the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. She was also legal advisor to peace negotiations that have been going on in the past between the PLO and Israel. She's widely associated with universities like Stanford, Harvard, and Institute for Middle East Understanding. We can say she's a person that was deeply involved in the peace negotiations, would be an authority on the subject. Let's analyze some of what she said.
And this is why I think it's so important for people to understand that there has never, in the Israeli mindset, been an idea that Palestinians are entitled to equality or to be entitled to an equal state. They've never had this in their mindset. For them, the mindset is all about ethnic cleansing, which is something that both Zippy and Mark Regev believe in.
Okay, so she says equality and statehood are two things that the Israeli state never thinks about. They never dreamt of giving these two things for the Palestinians. To put that in perspective, let's look at the occupation. The occupation by itself is a huge hindrance when it comes to statehood for the Palestinians. In 1948, Israel occupied the state, and it's not willing to give statehood for Palestinians. And because of the occupation that is very draconian, they have this apartheid laws that give different rights to different people based on their ethnic identity. Instead, she says, what the Israeli government wants is ethnic cleansing. That's the only thing they're interested of. The first happened in 1948 during the Nakba, what we call the huge calamity, where more than 750,000 Palestinians were chased away from their land, and strangers just overtake them. If you see this in action, you would be amazed at the audacity of the settlers. They just come, knock on somebody's door and just take over. A settler that comes from Europe or America just all of a sudden knocks on the door and says, just get out. Some of them, they just barge in. They come with armed soldiers that give them coverage and enforce the taking away of land. They believe it's their home. By now, I'm sure most of you have seen that video clip. An American that just goes into the West Bank and just takes over the house. And he argues, this might be your home, but I've just taken over it. If I don't take it, some other settler will just come in and take it over. It's like, okay, it's me. I have to take it. This is the reality. And they feel like they are entitled to that part of land. Somebody that comes from America or Europe just has full rights to take away a home of a person whose ancestry has always been based on that land. And this runs deep into the state politics of Israel, and that's what it's based on. They're not in the business of giving state for people who deserve it. They are in the business of ethnic cleansing, where you just take over somebody's house, just chase them away.
Or they have in their mind the idea that Palestinians are less than, and therefore deserving less than a state. And so what Itzhak Rabin, in his very last speech before the Knesset, before he was assassinated, what he said was that there were going to be settlements that would remain, that Palestinians would be maintaining their own affairs, but that it would be less than a state.
That's actually how many Zionists feel. They have this superiority complex where they think they're better than everyone. Everybody else is there to serve. Some of them display this superiority complex all over media. They're not even ashamed of it. They say, we are the best people on earth, and everybody else is just below us. They just openly say it. And that's the going propaganda in Israel right now on social media. They just display this and they're not even ashamed of it. They're not in the habit of hiding away their superiority complex because they're not ashamed of it. It's actually a state policy.
And that has been the maximum of what Israel has ever thought through. And when I was part of the negotiations, and the thing that the reason that I regretted it is that it very much provided this facade that there were two equal parties that were somehow negotiating together, and if only they could just come to an agreement, then there would be peace and there would be a state and there would be all these wonderful things. But what it really did was it masked this colonization plan. It masked Israel's establishment of settlements. It masked the taking of Palestinian land. It masked the killing of Palestinians.
Even people like Ishaq Rabin, who was assassinated by an extremist, imagine this. The extremists are saying he's not like supremacist enough and they killed him. And he was saying the maximum we could give is just less than a state. It's just maybe some type of self-administration, but they're never going to allow them to be a full state. That would be pure illegal according to international law. And a person holding this opinion would be considered an extremist. But even this was not extremist enough for the Zionist extremists, and they killed him, they assassinated him. And the basic rule of engagement has always been continuous settlement. In peace, in war, they never stop. Even in the last 3 months, when they've been attacking Gaza and claiming that they're just there to destroy Hamas, the settlements have been going on and various neighborhoods were being taken away by illegal settlers. And the settlers were actually being armed by the government, by the security apparatus. People like Itamar Ben-Gvir from the national security, just arming them, showing that Israel is never after peace or never after a formal state for the Palestinians. That's what she's expressing. She says it's a continuous violation of rights. Colonization, killing, the caging in of Palestinians, it's always going on along with the settlement. Children are abducted. Children like 12 years old, 11 years old, they're taken to Israeli prisons where they're tortured and they never appear in court and they stay years without conviction. And this is why she says, I had to quit the negotiations at some point because the negotiation for peace, it was just a propaganda. It was just a tool for Israel to just keep stalling. And they use it as a mask for the killing, for the colonization, for the settlements to continue. And she says it's a zero-sum game. And the reason is that Israel does not believe Palestinians are entitled to a state, nor do they deserve equality.
It masked the caging in of Palestinians. It masked their imprisonment. It masked everything. And for what? All that Israel has ever said, that the maximum that it would be willing to do is to expand the cages that we already live in. They never had in mind to let us free.
It's just an expansion of your prison space. It's nothing more. It's all the propaganda. They say we offer them peace, we offer them statehood. It's just a lie. The maximum they could do is just a little bit of expansion on the side of the prison, but they're never willing to give what the Palestinians deserve.
And that's why I speak about regretting it, because I regret being part of a process that served as a facade. Again, I wasn't the person who created the facade, but the mere fact that we had these negotiations really led people down this path to think that everything was going to be magically undone. The occupation would be magically undone if we just reached an agreement where we dotted the I's and crossed the T's. And that, of course, was not anything that was ever on the table. And that's eventually why I quit.
You see, it's a loop. It's just that Israel is not willing to give state or equality to the Palestinians, and the United States just keeps on supporting a colonial state, keeps on supporting the continuous deprivation of the Palestinian people. Because America is a very powerful country, and they can give diplomatic cover, and they can also give military cover. That's the problem. They can afford to keep stalling unless they are pressured, just like now they are being pressured by the international community. What they're doing is called with its name, colonialism and apartheid. Now it's being named. People of the world are understanding, waking up to the fact there is still a colonial project undergoing in the Middle East, and that's actually behind the problem and the chaos in the Middle East. That's why we see countries like South Africa are now taking Israel to court, accusing it of genocide and apartheid and colonization. And the global South countries are supporting them. That's why we need to keep this pressure going. You remember what happened to South Africa? At last they had to give up because the world was not on board with it anymore. They just had to stop it somewhere. And that's what we need to do. If you like this video, please like it, share it, make sure this reaches others, and consider subscribing to the channel so that you can see more videos like this. Thank you.